I'm so excited to share this message with you. Honestly, if you believe in prayer and you're a praying person, say a quick little prayer for me in real time right now, because I have had an unusual experience today in preparation for these minutes and moments that we do share as a community. In an odd turn of events, I felt my body almost shaking this afternoon with a sense of God's love and care for you and for our world that is so hurting and so broken and so in need of His love, His care and concern. God is a father, and He is a good father, and He loves you. Contrary to popular religious notion, you are so loved. You are so cared for. You are the apple of His eye, and God is not far from you. God is near to you and loves you and has extraordinary plans for your everyday life, even in the midst of this pandemic. So it is here at Church Home, we are committed to good news. We are committed to the truth about what Jesus has finished and accomplished for each and every person alive through His death, burial, and resurrection. And we hope today that you feel encouraged. Listen, if you're watching right now and you're like, I am not a religious person, I am not a Christian, I'm not a church person, this is bizarre. I'm telling you, this is the space for you. We are not religious. We are not into rules, regulations, and mere knowledge and principles and concepts. We are passionate about a person that we believe is alive. And He is Jesus. We believe that He is God in physical form. He is the fullness of all that God is in bodily form. And we want to follow Him and walk with Him every day. That is our passion at Church Home. Our passion is not traditional meetings to go through motions and do trinkets and toys and ploys and concepts that just simply make us feel better, but have no transformative power in it. We are committed to a person. I'm believing that person is going to meet you in your home, going to meet you in your condo, your townhome, going to meet you on your front porch, going to meet you maybe at a park where you're watching in the palm of your hand. The person of Jesus is going to meet you. Now, I've already figured out I'm a Jesus guy. You're going to figure out even more so in the next few minutes that I believe He is God. He's changed my life, and His death, burial, and resurrection has transformed my human existence and given me the meaning and purpose that I need. I'll go on to explain a little bit more about that. The title of my sermon tonight is Why I Think You're Frustrated. Why I think you're frustrated. I want to speak to the frustration that many of us are experiencing in the midst of this pandemic, in the middle of this forced mandatory quarantine. I want to speak to why I think there is a under the surface frustration that we're not addressing, we're not talking about, and I think we need to. Not only are those who follow Jesus frustrated, those who are considering following Jesus are frustrated, there is a frustration, as subtle as it may be. Nonetheless, it is legitimate and real, and I want to speak to that. So again, the title of my message for the next just few moments is Why I Think You're Frustrated. Here it is, okay? We're going to jump into a story in Luke chapter 9, and I'm going to read just a couple of kind of little clips of the story, if you will, and then I'll try to fill in some of the blanks as we go along for the next few moments. Luke chapter 9, in verse 23, this is a portion of Scripture we've been on now for the last few sermons, last Wednesday, Sunday, and now this Wednesday. It says in Luke chapter 9, verse 23, and I quote now, Jesus, here's a quote from Jesus. If anyone wants to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever will lose his life for my sake will save it, Jesus says. He goes on to say, what does it profit a man to gain all that the world has to offer? Stuff, status, things, possessions, and renown, and yet in the process forfeit himself or lose his soul. Now, verse 28 says in the same passage, about 8 days after Jesus said some of the most famous words He ever spoke, it says He went to a mountain. He went on a hike and went up a mountain with Peter, James, and John, 3 of the 12 young guys that worked with Him and followed Him during His ministry for approximately 3.5 years. They go to a mountain and they experience a phenomenon, something that is extraordinary, transcendent, and supernatural, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Now, verse 37 says, the next day, when they had come down from the mountain, another story unfolds. And we're going to end there in the next few minutes. And it says that there was a boy who was tormented by dark demon spirits. And it actually physically affected him. He was tormented with these spirits, these demons, these dark forces would throw him on the ground. He would convulse. And actually, Mark's gospel records that this young boy was actually, these spirits would try to throw him in open fires or throw him in water and drown him. It was a very serious situation. Coming down from the mountain, Jesus meets the father of this only child, this son, and he says, bring the boy to me and I'm going to heal him. Now the father expresses to Jesus, I tried some of your guys, 9 of your disciples, 3 of them you took to the mountain, but since you've been gone, I tried to get 9 of your guys to transform my son's life, to set him free. They couldn't do it. And Jesus says this in what is verse 41. He says, O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you and bear with you? Bring the boy to me. And he uses this term, twisted. And this is going to be really important because we're going to try to unpack together what is he speaking to or inferring when he says some things have gotten twisted. Don't get it twisted. That would be another great title to this sermon. Don't get it twisted. What got twisted? And is what got twisted some 2,000 years ago still getting twisted today? Still getting convoluted and confused today? And my suggestion tonight is merely, yes, it is. And it is causing extraordinary frustration, whether known or unknown. Why I think you're frustrated is from this passage, and I'd like to explain that to you. Will you join me in prayer? Father, thank you for the minutes and moments we share. I feel your presence in this room. I feel your reality in this room. And I pray that my friends and community members and guests watching, engaging now with our community, I pray you would meet them in that room, in their room. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your strength. Lord, we love you so much, and we want you and truly only you, the living God, to encounter us and change us. In Jesus' name, amen, amen, amen. You ever close your eyes during prayer? And I thought for sure the camera was like over here. And I opened up my eyes and you're like, oh, wow. Isn't it amazing how you can close your eyes just for a few minutes and still get disoriented? Anyways, completely non-consequential, but nonetheless, there it is. You ever gotten mad about something that you're actually not mad about? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like frustrated at something that is not at all what you're frustrated at, okay? We have been playing an enormous amount of ping pong, right? I've called pastor friends who also have suggested they too are playing ping pong. We got a net that you can hit golf balls into. We bought a little basketball hoop that's kind of, it can go to 10 feet, but it's kind of skinny and rickety, but nonetheless, we got a basketball hoop. Because this is what you do. Quarantine, at home, we're going to play ping pong, we're going to hit balls in the net, we're going to play basketball, right? You got to keep the kids exercising. So ping pong has become a nightly routine. The Waters, we're quarantined together with the Waters, Elijah and Amory Waters, and Chelsea and I, and we're constantly playing ping pong every night. One night, I probably already inferred this or even referred to this. One night I got so frustrated, I threw the paddle down the street. Okay, now, I must say that it's as if God was involved because this paddle, I don't work with cattle at all. This paddle took flight. Do you remember? It literally, it's like it had wings, really. And the paddle flew down the street, no exaggeration, probably 150 yards, something like that, because I just threw it. We were outside playing ping pong, our ping pong table's outside, and I just threw it, and everyone's like, Judah, calm down. I'm like, you calm down. And it just floated, and I kind of got mesmerized with the ping pong. But the truth is, I wasn't frustrated at ping pong. I wasn't mad at ping pong. Ping pong is a great outlet. I have broken every single paddle we have on the ping pong table, but we recently went to Target with masks on, where I got this shirt, and We got the last 2 ping pong paddles left because I've broken all of them. But it's not ping pong I'm mad at. It's not the actual game. It's not the paddle I'm mad at. You know what I'm frustrated with? I'm frustrated with the plight of humanity. I'm frustrated with the loss of life. I'm frustrated with the pain. I'm frustrated with seeing things in our country and around the world. I'm frustrated as the number grows. I'm frustrated with some rhetoric that I think is insensitive at times during these painful days and seasons. And that's what I'm frustrated at. But you ever been there? You express frustration over the fact that your hard-boiled egg isn't hard-boiled. You know, whatever it is, and you're like, I don't really care about the egg. What I care about is I want to go back to work, or I want to go out to eat, or I just want to walk without a mask, or whatever the frustration might be. I think oftentimes we project and we get mad at something that in reality isn't the problem and isn't the frustration. The frustration is what we're all going through. Welcome to the quarantine. Okay, if you have found yourself projecting and getting frustrated at a spouse or a roommate or a loved one or groups of people that you disagree with, I think that is so symptomatic of what we are all facing. Now, what I want to speak to tonight, if you double down on what we're talking about, is frankly spiritual frustration. I think there is so much happening right now in the seen world, no doubt, but so much happening in the unseen world or the unseen realm. Now, tonight we have a passage in front of us that frankly, we get glimpses into the unseen world. We see the unseen, the fourth dimension, entering the third dimension, and frankly, it is transcendent. It is sensational. It's supernatural, but there is such a thing. And I think there's so much going on spiritually that maybe we're not even completely understanding or even aware of, and it is causing frustration. So here's my attempt tonight to tell you why I think you might be frustrated. Jesus says this. He says, don't get it twisted. Now that's kind of a different quote, but he uses this word, twisted. Now, if you look at the scene where Jesus is quoted saying this, everyone's frustrated. Everyone's frustrated. Let's talk about the people in the scene, okay? You have 3 disciples who, by the way, apparently they're closer to Jesus than the other 9 because there's 12 guys who roll with him for 3.5 years. Those 3 get to go on a hike and go on the mountain, and on that mountain, Jesus is transfixed in front of their face. He's got lightning coming out of his body's glowing, his face is glowing, and to top it all off, 2 Hebrew heroes show up, Elijah and Moses, and Peter, James, and John are like, this is the most amazing thing. Now, by the time they come down the mountain, it is just one big frustrated scene. Think about it. In fact, Mark chapter 9 gives us more details of what happens coming down the Mount of Transfiguration. The very next day, there's a dad who's so desperate, a dad who is so begging that his son, his only child, could be healed because his son is tormented by dark, evil, wicked spirits. And he's begging. Now, we know now that while Jesus is on the mountain with 3 of his guys, the 9 are down the mountain. They've encountered this dad. The dad evidently begged the 9 to try to set the son free. It doesn't work. The 9 feel embarrassed or frustrated. The dad doesn't get the results that he wants for his child. He's frustrated. The onlooking crowd, the unbelieving, critical Jewish crowd, are watching the 9 who say they're following the Messiah. But if they're following the Messiah, why can't they set this broken, tormented son free? So the crowd is frustrated. They're critical. And to top it all off, Mark chapter 9 says, you got the religious leaders, the scribes, who are arguing with the disciples. I want you to think about this. The boy is still tormented, but the scribes, that is the teachers of the Torah from the synagogue in antiquity, are on the scene. The crowd's there. The 3 from the mountain are now there. Jesus is there. The 9 that are embarrassed, they're there. The son is still tormented. He's there. The dad is there. He's broken and hurting and helpless, and his boy isn't healed. It is one big frustrated scene. Everyone's got something to say. Everyone's agitated. The religious church leaders, if you will, they're belittling. They're arguing with the 9, and the 9 are like, well, we tried, and they're trying to defend themselves. The crowd is being critical, right? They're just, from the cheap seats, they're just throwing, haymakers to try to belittle and berate these disciples. If you look at the original language in Mark chapter 9, there is arguing, but there's also criticizing and berating and belittling, and frankly, they were making fun of them. Wow, you guys are really powerful. You can't do anything. Jesus walks into this frustrated scene. This is going to get interesting. What will he do? And what will he say? Well, in Mark chapter 9, we get a little bit more detail from the Luke 9 passage. He literally says, bring the boy to me. He asked the dad, how long has this been happening? And he said, a very, very long time. And he said, I want you to bring the boy to me. And he commands these demonic, wicked, evil spirits to leave the boy. And Jesus is quoted saying, don't you ever come back again. And the Bible says the boy fell to the floor, fell to the street, actually, the ground. And the crowd, the onlooking crowd said, he killed him. He's dead. And Jesus reaches out his hand, he picks up the boy, and the boy is completely healthy, transformed, and whole. And the dad must be out of his mind with gratitude and thankfulness. And while the entire frustrated scene and groups of people, 5 different groups of people, shift from frustration to astonishment, Jesus concludes by saying in verse 44, listen to what I'm saying. So the boy's healed. The father's happy. The critical crowd's like, well, that's power. The scribes are like, we can't really say much. The 9 are like, thank God you came to make us look good. The 3 are like, you guys got no idea what just happened on that mountain. And all of a sudden, the whole thing is shifted. Why? Because of a person. His name is Jesus. It goes from frustration to astonishment. But in the middle of astonishment, Jesus says, my ESV version says, let these words sink into your ears. In other words, hey, I got something important to say. They're all like, oh my word, this is crazy. This is amazing. Oh. I mean, imagine like a video of like a magician on the streets who does something that blows people's minds and times that by 10. Everybody's right. I mean, it must have been loud. And Jesus calls out, excuse me, I want you to hear what I'm about to say. Now, you would think that what Jesus is about to say is, here's why I could heal the boy and the 9 couldn't. Let me explain it to you. Instead, he says this. Imagine now, in the midst of this song, the Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men. The Bible says that he was speaking to his disciples, but based on my research, others would have absolutely heard him, and he was not speaking quietly or softly. The Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men. Jesus uses this moment to say, I'm going to the cross. And Esther, you don't have to start playing yet. Just give me just a couple minutes, because if you start playing, I'm going to start crying, and then it's going to get weird, and I won't be able to say it. So in a moment, Esther will start playing, but I just feel so emotional, and I'm going to get this out just for a moment, and then Esther shall play, and it will be beautiful. Jesus takes this opportunity to tell his disciples what? I'm going to the cross. I'm going to the cross. This is about the cross. This is all about the cross. I would be like, I don't know if this scene's about the cross. It's all about the cross. Jesus is saying, what I'm doing here points to the cross. It's what the cross will do. It's what I'm going to accomplish at the cross. I'm going to be delivered up. And the Bible says they didn't understand it. Their understanding was darkened. But it was actually right before Jesus, if you want to come after me, deny yourself, take up your cross and follow me daily. He says, I'm going to suffer many things and be delivered up to the scribes and Pharisees. They're going to crucify me. So actually both sensational, radical, supernatural scenes are bookended by, I'm going to the cross, 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 which is to say, this is about the cross. This isn't about Moses. This isn't about Elijah. This isn't even as much about physical healing. This is about a cross. I'm going to the cross. The cross is going to change everything. The cross is going to alleviate some of the frustration that you're feeling. I want you to work with me. I want you to follow me. I want you to take up your cross. That cross, my cross, is going to be embraced as your cross. This is about the cross. And this is really important because Jesus is telling us that the cross will transform time and space as we know it. That the sinless God-man, God himself, will put himself on a torture tree. He will die violently. All of the earth will resound in response. The sky will go dark. There will be an earthquake because even the rocks and the sky are like, that's the one who made us. That's the architect and the designer. That's him. So even like the elements respond with, what is happening? Talk about twisted. What's going on here? Even the rocks and the dirt don't understand why the architect of the ages is hanging on a tree he made. Jesus is suggesting that the frustration and upheaval of humanity can be resolved and solved through the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. Then we're going to talk about this in a matter what this means. Now, because Jesus went to the cross, he says, if you want to follow me, it's got to be about the cross. If you want to work with me, if you want to walk behind me in my footsteps, you must take up your cross daily. That your life has to be focused on what Jesus accomplished in your place on the cross. Now, we now know, according to 2 Corinthians 5:21, that he who knew no sin became sin so that we could become the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. So what was purchased for you and for me on the cross by Jesus was forgiveness, relationship, acceptance, identity, and just connection with the architect, connection with the artist, connection with the designer. The cross provided that. And then on the third day, like he predicted, he rose again to tell us all he has the power over death. So in other words, he's the most important person in the universe. He made it, designed it, and saved it. So why, Judah, sorry, Esther, soon, very soon. Why am I frustrated? Let's go back now to the words we started with. Jesus says, if you want to roll with me, work with me, follow me, not do you want to follow my rules and my morals? No. If you want to have a relationship with me and live every day walking with me and working with me, deny yourself, which is rest from your own works, embrace my cross as your cross, because that's what it is. In other words, it paid for your error, your wrong, your sin. For the Bible says we've all erred, we've all sinned, we've all been selfish, we've all hurt ourselves and others. The cross pays for that. And then he goes on. Whoever tries to, here's where it gets twisted, here's where it gets frustrating. He says, whoever tries to save his life, it'll slip through his hands. Whoever loses his life, please hear me, loses his life for my sake, or in light of what I've done on the cross, you will find it. You will find it. We're all living in a tension right now. And I want you to hear this, and then we're going to pick this right back up. Here's the tension we're living in, and it's incredibly frustrating. We are living in the real, actual tension of death and life and death. We are. Suddenly life is, do you find frustration? Do you feel bad sometimes when you're resting at home and then you turn on the news and you see people dying? Do you feel like, I'm not doing enough? Do you feel guilty for your healthy family? Do you feel like, wait, the tension here is like, am I the only one that goes on social media and you see flowers and beauty and I'm posting inspiration pics, and yet the next pic that I post is about an African American young man in this country which was shot down by white supremacists and murdered because he was jogging on his own through a neighborhood. Am I the only one that's like, what is it? Are we living in an emergency room, or are we living in a day off? Am I supposed to be functioning like it's a day off, or am I supposed to be functioning like it's a rescue mission? Which is it? And I think when the American dream and COVID-19 collide, I wonder if it could reveal something about our life. I wonder if we could just embrace this for a moment. Not a disease, not pain and loss, but perspective. What's happening to us? I'll tell you what's happening. Our cultural dream has just collided with a disease we can't stop. And all of us collectively at the same time are forced to live in a tension called life and death. And I'm just suggesting it's always been this way. It's always been this way. Life's always been this fragile. Life's always been this much of a vapor. Life has always had this brevity. The Bible warns and admonishes and reminds us over and over. It's life and death. It's life and death. It's life and death. And this pandemic, this quarantine, has put it right in the forefront. And now we all know, while some of us are still living, many of us are dying. We're wearing masks because we don't want to communicate the disease. And suddenly, which is it? Can I laugh today, or should I only cry? Should I cry? After I cry, can I laugh? And all of a sudden, we're caught in this tension. I'm going to tell you what it is in one word: frustrating. 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 Because whether we know it or not, we are raised to believe, and I'm not saying this is inherently wrong. I am grateful for the freedoms of this country, and yet injustice is all around, and we must speak up, and we will speak up. But nonetheless, I am grateful for the freedoms in this country, and I still believe this is the greatest country in the world, and I'm proud to live here, yet nonetheless, our dream is not entirely true as we thought it was. Our dream tells us that this life is about curating things, stuff, and status. And it tells us that your doing will define your value. And yet we are all, with the exception of frontline heroes, who I pray that we take time every day to think about and support in the smallest of ways possible. In any way we can, it makes a difference. Other than those frontline heroes, the rest of us are in a commanded quarantine. We are doing what feels like nothing. And all of a sudden, the American dream starts to crumble. And we start to get frustrated. This is why I think you're frustrated. Jesus predicted this 2,000 years ago. He said, if you will try to keep your life for yourself, if your life becomes about stuff and status and things, it'll slip through your fingers. And my brothers and sisters, few things are more frustrating. Few things. You ever tried to get something out of water? We got bees in water or whatever it might be. You're trying to get something out of water, and you're trying to, and it's real light, and it just seems to, and you got to get back in, and you're trying to just get it in your hand, and all the water it just keeps slipping. You want to talk about frustrating? What happens when a pandemic proves to us that our dream is broken and it doesn't deliver? I'll tell you what's happened. It's happening right now in this country and around the world. Vices are at an all-time high because we are all collectively thinking to ourselves, this isn't working. I mean, again, like I said, you go on social media. I mean, 1 minute I'm posting something happy, the next I'm posting the reality of where things are at. And it's just like, which thing do you do? Is it life, or is it death? Or is it about death, or is it life? It's always been life and death. My brothers and sisters, it's always been life is short, life is brief, life is hard, life is broken. So Jesus says, here's where the frustration happens. We twist instead of let go of my life because of what Jesus has done that has changed the universe, or keep my life for myself and pursue the dream, things, possessions and stuff, toys, and then I'll be happy. The irony is this, and I'm going to be very bold to say this. When you start to accept the cross and accept Jesus, and yet still orient your values and your schedule around possessions, stuff, status, and things, your frustration, I would like to suggest, can double. Because now you are, not only do you know of the cross and know of the ways of Jesus, which Jesus says, if you'll let go of your life and go my way, not your way, go my way, go my way. What's the way of Jesus? It's the way of transformation. It's the way of forgiveness. It's the way where your flesh dies because you didn't earn it, deserve it, warrant it, or merit it. You simply accept the free gift of Jesus. So your actual identity can't be in what you do, because it's all about what Jesus has done, and you start to follow him. Jesus says, you will find your life more and more and more every day. You'll discover who you really are. That's what he promises. But conversely, he says, if your life is saved for yourself, you will lose it. It'll be like sand through your fingers. I would like to suggest that it is here that we are feeling and experiencing so much frustration. I'm here to introduce to you Jesus' dream, not the American dream. And I love this country, please hear me. The dream of Jesus for your life is to learn to live beyond yourself by seeing how he lived beyond himself on your behalf. Freely you receive forgiveness, acceptance, love, identity, a place of belonging in God's family. And now that is to define and motivate and curate and direct your desires to a life that is lived beyond yourself. By no means am I minimizing enjoyment, rest, parties, good food, good friends, good family, and may we have much more of that in our life. But that is not our primary focus, passion, purpose, and ambition. The Bible describes the lifestyle of a Jesus follower, and I'll define it with one word: mission. 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 I'm going to say it again, church home. We're here for a mission. And that mission is motivated by a person. Not principles. Not church buildings and church conferences, retreats, advances. By a person. And that person so transforms your life that you start to live with a mission. A mission that is beyond yourself. It's why we're building Church Home. It's why we're going to ask that you give resources. It's why we're going to ask that you would be a host at home, to do church at home, because we're on a mission. We're not trying to keep this life for ourselves. We're letting go of our life and what may come of it and the amount of money we make. And we're saying, Jesus, what you did on the cross, that's my cross. What you did on the cross is shaping my priorities, my schedule, my desires, and my focus. My brothers and sisters, there's nothing inherently wrong with money. Money is neutral. It's the love of money that brings about all kinds of frustrations, complexities, and problems. Money is fine. Money can also be on mission in your life as you let go of your life, not keep it for yourself, and begin to live it for others. Now, as I come to a conclusion, and Esther joins me on the piano. Thank you, Esther. She's just trying to help, and I'm like, wait. I want to say this. There's 5 different people groups in this story, and you may resonate with one of those. Maybe you're the 3 disciples that went on a hike with Jesus. Maybe you're the 9 that are embarrassed at the bottom of the mountain that have no power. Maybe you are the crowd that sits in the cheap seats and just criticizes everybody, just takes shots. Maybe you're the religious scribes who'd rather argue with fellow Christians than help a tormented boy. Or maybe you're the dad and son. Maybe the whole reason you got on this broadcast is just because you're tormented and you're desperate and you're begging for a Christian somewhere to let go of their life and tell you and show you and demonstrate to you this man on the middle cross who changed the universe as we know it and split time and space, AD and BC. Maybe that's why you're here. As we conclude, as much as I desire, I wish I could speak to all 5 groups and specifically the frustration you're experiencing, but I want to end here. And y'all just say a prayer under your breath that I can say this without getting too emotional that I can't say it. I want to speak to the church. I'm a pastor of a church. Bear with me. I pastor Jesus followers. But my mission and my mandate is to tell the story to those who don't know it yet. So I too am a man living in tension, right? This tension of life and death is real, but this tension as a pastor is, who am I talking to? Because it's like all 5 groups speak to me, and I want to talk to all 5. But in this moment, bear with me for those of you that are guests or you're new to this space and our space. Allow me for a moment, concluding minutes and moments, to share with Church Home. I can't speak about other churches and other communities and we love them. They're our brothers and sisters. God told me to speak to this community, and that's what I'm going to do. I got about 22 more years left, and then I'm moving to Palm Springs full time. I'm going to have a glass of wine every day, and I'm going to play golf every day, and I am going to enjoy the company of my best friend and the love of my life and my wife. But until then, I got 22 years left to tell the story of Jesus to those who are tormented and to instruct those who know his forgiveness and are called to not keep their life for themselves, but for others. Let me take you back to this mountain. And I want to make a couple observations as we conclude. I haven't said land the plane in a long time, so I'm going to go ahead and say land the plane. It's been too long. Peter, James, and John are handpicked by Jesus to go on a mountain because they are very close to him and he's hurting. He knows what's ahead. What's ahead is going to be the most excruciating, painful, sacrificial death the humanness of Jesus could ever ascertain or imagine. He takes his 3 closest friends with him, and they go on a hike, and they get to this mountain. The Bible says that his 3 closest friends, they're heavy with sleep. Now that word heavy means they were overwhelmed. They didn't understand what was going on. They could see the distress of Jesus. The Bible says Jesus starts to pray on this mountain. His 3 friends are asleep. They wake up to see that as Jesus prays, his body glows. His face radiates. One passage says it's as if his clothes looked like lightning. And the boys begin to wake up and probably rubbing their eyes going, what do I see? And even more so, they recognize the 2 Hebrew heroes who have come from the 4th dimension, and now they're speaking to Jesus in the 3rd dimension. And the Bible says they are talking about what he will accomplish in Jerusalem. They're talking about his destiny. They're talking about what he's doing. I would like to suggest that one of the things was happening is that these 2 Hebrew heroes were trying to encourage Jesus. This will change everything, Jesus. And I think he got strength from the one who represented the law and the one who represented the prophets. I think the humanness of Jesus needed to be reminded that this would change everything. And finally, humanity would not have to relate to God through the rules of Moses or the knowledge of Elijah, but they would be fulfilled. And now through simply receiving the free gift of Jesus, even if you don't understand it all, you can have a relationship with the architect of the ages, the artist of all humanity and creation itself. You could know him. And I think Moses and Elijah were there saying, this is it. This is what we've craved. This is what we've desired. This is what the rocks and the dirt and the oceans and the animals and the skies and the hills and the trees have been anticipating. Don't you give up, Jesus. And Peter opens his eyes and he says, because one passage says he doesn't know what to say. So he says, it's good for us to be here, Jesus. Moses and Elijah probably look. Jesus looks, and it's Peter talking. And he says, we got to stay here. I'm gonna build you little huts, little homes, and we should stay here. We should stay here. Wait till people hear about this. Wait till people know who I've seen. Do you know after this incident, Jesus says, tell no one. Tell no one. I'm going to tell you what Peter and the boys want to do. They want to tell everyone and flaunt it and build their egos and tell everyone how important they were. And Jesus says, you don't get to tell anybody. Till after I rise from the dead. Tell no one. Church home, I just want to speak to the church just for a moment. Because here's what I think God said to me about an hour ago. He said this, son, it's time to go back down the mountain with me. And I heard that phrase in my heart, and it doesn't always happen like this for me. And I was like, I think that's God. The Bible says that Peter was interrupted, as if to say, please be quiet, Peter. You're not getting it. I think Peter thought to himself, now we'll have the wisdom of Moses, we'll have the knowledge of Elijah and Jesus. And what Peter is missing is the church will not be built on the rules of Moses or the knowledge of Elijah or the principles of a man. It will be built on the blood of Jesus and his resurrection. And so the Bible says that while Peter is talking, and one translation says, Peter says, let's stay here. Let's stay on the mountain. Isn't that what a church is? Let's stay on the mountain. What Peter doesn't know is at the bottom of that mountain is a son whose dad is being tormented by devils. Peter says, Jesus, let's stay here with Moses and Elijah and you. This is it. And the cloud envelops Peter, James, and John. While Peter's talking, he interrupts him. In other words, stop talking. And God's voice comes from the cloud and says, this is my beloved son. Please hear me. This language is strong and emphatic. This is my chosen one. I chose him. I didn't choose Moses and Elijah. My chosen one to save the world is Jesus. We will not build monuments to rules or knowledge, for they cannot save the human soul, and they cannot transform the tormented son at the bottom of the mountain. It will be Jesus. And God says from the cloud, listen to him. Listen to him. You know what's amazing? He doesn't say anything right away. So the listen to him can't just be listen to what he says. It also means watch him. Watch where he goes. Moses and Elijah are gone. The minute Peter wants to keep them around, they're gone. As if God is saying, no, the Moses and Elijah are not for you. Nope, they were there encouraging Jesus. Nope, he's the fulfillment. All you need is Jesus. All you need is Jesus. And Luke records this, and Matthew records this, and Mark records this in the three synoptic gospels. All three of them say, and it was only Jesus, and it was only Jesus, and it was only Jesus. And then it says, when they had come down from the mountain. I promise I'm coming to a close. Esther's playing softly. And here's what I feel like I'm supposed to say to our church. Number one, we like rules. We do. And we like knowledge, and we like secrets to success. We do, and we need to say it. We do. And sometimes we like mountains more than being anywhere else. And you know what the mountain is? Oftentimes it's our gatherings, our meetings where we experience the love of Jesus. I want to remind you that in those mountaintop meetings that we have, and maybe this is one too, maybe you could suggest this one is too, I'd like to suggest to you that what happened on that mountain has to happen here. And that is, we have to stop trying to treat the law and knowledge as if it is a peer with Jesus. There is no power to transform the human soul. And the begging, tormented people at the bottom of our meetings and mountains. Rules will not change their life, principles will not change their life, and secrets to success will not set them free from their torment, my brothers and sisters. Only Jesus can do that. We have to admit, we like mountains. We like mountains. And I think the message to Church Home is this. I think the message as COVID-19 has collided with the American dream, something is being revealed in the world. We got it twisted. This isn't about our careers. This isn't about our appearance. This isn't about our status. This isn't about our toys, our square footage. What we can say we earned with our own hard work. That's not what this life is about. Can't we see it? Can you see through the forest? Can you see the trees in the forest? Can you see what this actually is? It is always forever about knowing the architect. Can you see the architecture? Can you see the artist? Can you see the majesty? Can you see the beauty? It's all to point you to a person. Not the rules of his universe, the person of Jesus. We gotta go down the mountain. We gotta go down the mountain. So here's what I'm suggesting. What is happening to our church right now is we're gonna go down the mountain. I'm gonna be really bold here, and this is my opinion, so bear with me. I wanna be real clear, this is my opinion. My opinion is that God works all things together for good. And in the midst of evil and disease and torment and loss, God, his plan is unfolding in front of us. In front of us. And this is what I'd like to suggest. Some of our gatherings have turned into mountains, and we don't want to come down. And on these mountains / meetings that we have, we are prone to sharing the rules of Moses and the knowledge of Elijah. And I'll tell you what it produces: status and stuff. Some really good stuff that still works if you work it. And so, I know why there's an undercurrent of frustration amongst Christians. Because I think we have been confronted. We have colluded with the American dream. And we're pursuing stuff and status like everybody else. And so we want to have meetings that are removed from pain and torment. And we want to share our knowledge, and we want to share our rules, and we want to share our principles. And I just wonder if God in his goodness is overshadowing us and asking us to just go down the mountain. And so, this wicked, horrific disease, which is not from God, God is going to use it, and the church will never be the same. Our meetings have been shut down. I wonder what God could be saying. We can't gather in our buildings? If I told you that, you'd never believe it. And yet here we are. Well, I can't wait to get back to our beautiful buildings and our meetings and our hazers and our lights and our bands. Me too, it's great. Wait a second. Could we? Jesus, it's so good that we're here. We're going to build. Let's just live here with Moses and Elijah and you. Jesus, it's like, you think I came to the planet so you could have mountaintop meetings while people are dying at the base of the mountain? This is my chosen one. Listen to him. Follow him. Watch where he goes. And I'm going to tell you where he went. He went down the mountain. And he joined the frustrated scene of humanity while the religious people are arguing over petty things while people are dying. And he says, what's going on? And the disciples are embarrassed. They feel like they don't have any power. The dad's frustrated because he wants his son to be saved. The religious leaders are criticizing other religious people and saying, you don't have power. And the masses belittle, berated, make fun. And Jesus says, bring the boy to me. Bring him to me. And the dad brings him and he says, this has been happening a long time. What consequence does the duration? Because every day of pain matters to Jesus. How long? He said, Jesus, it's been happening a long time. He says, okay. And he talks to this wicked spirit like it is, it's there illegally. Like it's not supposed to be there. And he's like, you go and you leave this boy alone and you never come back. You hear me? And everybody's blown away by Moses or Elijah or the scribes with all their Torah knowledge. They're blown away by the guy who just came down the mountain and set a boy free that no one else could. And while they're all astonished, what does Jesus do? He says, it's about the cross. This is what the cross will do. This is what I will do for all of humanity. That boy is a portrait. That boy is a picture of humanity. And I am telling you, God is the Father, and all the people are his children. That's why it's a dad at the bottom of the hill. That's why it's a son, and it's his only son, because God would send his only son so that that father's only son could be free. That's why he's an only son, because Jesus is the only son. And his 12 guys are standing there going, what's going on? Jesus, we gotta go down the mountain. I'd like to predict something to the church. The church is about to get messy. For those who will listen and those who will follow him, our meetings will forever be disrupted. Our gatherings will not be the same. May they never be the same. May we come down our mountain, and may we leave on that mountain the rules of Moses and the knowledge of Elijah. And may we come down from this mountain with Jesus and Jesus alone. And when we get down to that mountain and we get down to the valley where people live, my brothers and sisters, people don't live on mountaintops. They live in valleys. Life is hard. Life is painful. Life is compromised. And sin has brought disease and wars and rumors of wars. And it's not good on this planet. And it breaks the heart of God who made this planet for our peace and our joy. And yet we are troubled and we're pained and we're broken and we're dying from diseases we have no cures to. I am not interested in sermons oriented around the success of the Western world. I want to know the only one that can set a tormented soul free. And that is only a person. And his name is Jesus. Are you astonished? Because until you are, you'll be frustrated. The Bible says they were all 5 groups, they were all astonished. at the majesty of God. Jesus says, I promise I'm done. Jesus says, you got to let go of your life for my sake. Let go. No. Christianity is not the moral high ground. Christianity is not a religion that I let go of my life because it's the right thing to do, or it's the good thing to do, or it makes me better than the other guy, or it makes me better than him, them, they. No. Christianity is for my sake. It's for my sake. It's for my sake. It's for my sake. It's for my sake. When they ask us why the hope, when they ask us why the service, when they ask why the generosity, when they ask why have you leveraged your life, why do you work so hard, why do you do this, why are you so passionate, we won't say because it's obedience, because I'm trying to do good and I'm trying to be better and I'm trying to be, no. We'll say for his sake. It's because of his sake. It's because I've seen him. I'm astonished. I've seen him set people free. He set me free. I know that's what he does. It's for his sake. And so for his sake, I'm going to let go of my finances. For his sake, I'm going to let go of my career. For his sake, I'm going to let go of my identity. For his sake, I'm going to let go of my status. For his sake, I'm going to let go. I'm not going to keep this life for myself. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to go down the mountain. I'm not going to stay in a church building and just make myself feel good. People are dying, church. Could it be that you're in your home right now because you're a missionary to your neighborhood? Because I know that same tormented boy lives in your neighborhood and mine. And I'm not against our meetings. We're having one right now in a turn of ironic events. I don't want a church on a mountain. I want a church in the valley where people are dying and broken. And I preached twice as long as I was going to. And I blame Esther for playing so nicely and making me cry. But I don't know, man. I just hope. I started reading about this dad, and I'm just like, whoa. He said the spirit seizes him, and he convulses, and he foams at the mouth. It shatters him, the dad said, and the spirit never leaves him. It's like he's always there. He said, I begged your disciples to set him free, but they couldn't. Jesus says, you got it so twisted. That's why you got it twisted. You got it twisted. He says, bring the boy to me. And he does for this boy what he would do for all of us through the cross. It's called transformation. And so, I mean, man, I am just doing my best here at church. I'm trying to end this, but I don't want to overstate it or say too much. But I just want to say, as the pastor of this church, it's the only church I pastor. I just want God to disrupt anything he needs to disrupt. Do whatever he needs to do so we can be a church in the valley. So we can be a church for people who are truly tormented. And I just want to say to anyone watching, how remarkable are you? This preacher's gone so long tonight, and I can't believe you're still watching. If you are, and you feel tormented and broken and hurting, I simply want to say to you that only Jesus right now in your room. I'm just done, man. I don't want to do any more lofty words that make us think we are here celebrating the wisdom of a man that accomplishes the American dream. It does not accomplish eternal life. Only Jesus can do that. Only Jesus. Come what may, only Jesus can transform people. So I just, I want to pray for you. I love you, church. I love this church. The people of this church have raised me, been a part of this church since 1992. I was 13. Was raised by this community. This is my family. I'm not mad. Please hear me as your pastor. I'm not mad. I'm overwhelmed a little bit at the reality of what's happening and what God's doing in us. But blame the board of elders, talked me into doing this, and then we just keep having elders meetings 3-4 times a year, and every time the board gets together in this church, we always start with something like, okay, God, this is your church. It's your church, It's your church. Do whatever you want to reach people. So I've cried a lot, and I'm really sorry if you're new to this space and you're like, this guy's a wreck. You got a great point. If you would like to be untwisted and untormented, Jesus can do that right now. I don't want to live the rest of my life for things and stuff and status. God, have we had enough of that yet? I just want to be who God's called me to be, but I want to live for Jesus. If you can find another life like this, please let us know. But I never met a person like Jesus. Changes everything. God, I thank you for what you're doing in our church, and I'm overcome and I'm overwhelmed. A sense of you in this room right now. And we don't want to get it twisted. Maybe this frustration a little bit could be you. Take us to the locations that you're at. I want to walk with you and build your church. Build church home in barrios and neighborhoods and streets and cities where people are tormented. And meet them in their homes and save them and heal them. And God, whatever you want us to do with this church, we're just going to do it so people can know you. Man. If you'd like to receive the free gift of forgiveness that only Jesus offers, I want to pray for you. I promise you I'm not sad. I'm glad. I feel the love of Jesus and the sense of his presence. If you'd like to receive the free gift of Jesus, I ask you to respond right now wherever you are. You say, Judah, I receive what Jesus did in my place. All my error, my wrong, and my sin can be forgiven forever. Past, present, future sins forgiven forever because of Jesus. He became sin so that I could become right and have a relationship with God. If you want that right now, on the count of 3, raise your hand wherever you are in the world. 1, 2, 3. If that's you, just raise your hand. Man, I hope you feel the same passion that Jesus spoke to that boy and that wicked, evil, terrible spirit that tormented him. He said, don't you ever come back. Don't you ever come back. He's forgiven. You listen to me. All shame and guilt and insecurity and insufficiency, all of these things that have tormented you, don't you ever, you will never take resident again. We're just going to keep letting you know that Jesus is in charge here. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And lastly, just before we sing a song together, and I really appreciate those of you that have gone the distance with us tonight. This is unusual. If you join us Sunday, it'll be a short sermon, okay? I promise. I'll pay it back to you. But just want to pray that God will untwist our church. God, it's my prayer that you, if in any way we have exchanged the incredible journey of being a missionary with you for the American dream, and as a result, we feel frustrated and stuff. Astonish us again. Astonish us again with who you are and what you do and how you work. We love you. And God, lastly, I just declare over Church Home that we are not a church on the mountain. We're a church in the valley. That is who we are, and that's who we're going to be. And come what may, criticism, pain, problems, challenges, we want to go down the mountain with you. We want to go down the mountain with you. For this great, big, wild, big, awesome life of living beyond ourselves. Thank you for that, Jesus. We love you. Amen. Thank you, church, for your extra time tonight. I really appreciate it. Love you. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching our YouTube channel. To be honest, it really means a lot. It's kind of overwhelming to consider that you take time out of your life to listen to us tell the story of Jesus. If you haven't already, you can subscribe right here to the channel and get more of God's incredible love for you and his story of grace. Again, I can't say it enough. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we can do this again real soon.